So here's the verb for to be in various Germanic languages and also Proto-Indo-European. So in English, it's a bit irregular. We don't say thou art anymore. But in any case, it's basically I am, he is, and then we are, you are, they are, all have are. And in the past we have I was, he was, and then were in the past. We were, you were, and they were. And then in the infinitive, that's to be, and that obviously you speak English since you're listening to me talk English, so this should all be pretty straightforward. But you will notice when you take a look at this that it is very irregular, like the most irregular verb in English, where the forms don't even really look like each other. And if you want to understand why, it's because they actually come from different different verbs in Proto-Indo-European. In Proto-Indo-European, it was pretty regular. Hasm, hasi, hasti, smos, ste, senti, hasm, or like, so it's like it's certainly not anything that's like recognizable to us as like modern day English speakers, but you can see it's like a lot more similar to each other than the English forms are. But these are only the origins of the present forms. So for the past forms, they actually come from an entirely different verb, and that's hueset, huesete, or something like that. I don't speak Proto-Indo-European. And so today I'm going to talk about how this stuff became this stuff, and a little bit about this other stuff in between. So this esm, the S was lost, and the M became longer, so it goes from esm, and also this H at the beginning is lost, so you get immi. Because I think the reason this I is here is because Proto-Germanic doesn't like this, like a vocalic consonant it's called, where it's just mm. So it put an I there, or I don't know, maybe it was just from some other form or something. But in any case, esm becomes immi, which becomes Old English eom, which then becomes M. And this Essie then becomes Izzy, which gets the T at the end. Other languages have a T at the end too, and some languages like just don't have a T at the end. Even on the descendant of Isti. So it gets this T at the end and becomes art, which then becomes art. And for the third person, it loses the T. So in the in the second person singular, it gains the T. In the third person singular, it loses the T. And let's see. So then we have the plural forms, and now in modern English, these have all become R. We don't really distinguish in the plural between persons, so it's always, we are, you are, they are, and the this like even in Old English, it was no longer distinguished, so it was we sind or sindon, ye sind or sindon, he sind or sindon. So the plural forms had already merged. But back in Proto-Germanic, it used to be isum, isud, and sindi. So these sindon are from the third person plural. So is sindi for they are. Whereas these R forms are from basically, if you're wondering why some of these forms have an R and other have an S, whereas in Proto-Indo-European they all had S, and same in Proto-Germanic. Some of them have S and others have Z. So this Z actually gets rhoticized in a lot of different Germanic languages. Basically, all the ones that aren't Gothic, the Z becomes an R. And it might have, gone through some stage where it was sort of like the Czech R, by which I mean the R with the hat check or whatever it's called over it. So I can't make that sound. But I don't know, something like something like that. But pronounced by someone who can make the sound, and then that becomes ra, and then in English ra. So in other Germanic languages, it happened differently. So they don't all agree on when the S became voiced, and since the voiced S, which is the one that becomes R, if they disagree on whether the S is voiced or not, then obviously they're going to disagree on whether they have an R. So, and then after that, there's different like levelings. So you might see like originally Old Norse said Vesa, but then the R forms were analogized to the S forms. So then you got Vera, which is what Icelandic kept, and the other old, like, North Germanic languages, they got the Vera. I guess it might be Wessa. I'm not sure when the W became the Gothic has a W. So Gothic's pretty similar to Proto-Germanic, but you might notice that Proto-Germanic has vis isum, whereas Gothic has vis sium for we are, and jus isuth, whereas Gothic has jus siuth. And this is actually from what's called the optative, and we don't really have an optative anymore in modern English, but it's basically saying something like he should, you should, and even in cases where it's like I think he should be here by now, where it's not talking about an actual, oh yeah, I think it would be, better for him to be here. No, it can even talk about, like, I think he's here, I think he should be, where it's, just expressing like a potential truth, and that like he should be here by now, or he should have gotten home. You know, it's not like saying, "Oh yeah, he should have gotten," like that doesn't really make sense in the same sense as like, "Oh yeah, you should go to the movies tomorrow," or something like that. But the optative can be used for both. It can also be used to express that the thing you're saying about is like something that you heard, like, "Oh yeah, he should." He said that it should be here, you know, stuff like that. And German has sort of kept this, although it's mostly in, you know, newspapers where you might see this. Um, where, like, it's talking about, like it's a quotation, you know, so it's uh, like, "Oh yeah, apparently John is supposed to be the king of England." I don't know. Um, where it and that can like sort of you know put a little bit of doubt, like, I'm not saying this is just what I've heard. So then we have, you might notice that we say to be and not, you know, to waste or whatever it would be, or to were, or to whiz, or was, or I don't even know what wish on would be in modern English if it was kept, but in any case, the excuse me, the infinitive is to be, and that comes from a third Proto-Indo-European word, which is bullhyo or whatever, bullhyeti, something like that, and that's the verb that becomes beono in Proto-Germanic, and in Proto-Germanic these were completely separate verbs. They had slightly different meaning. There was no past tense. The past tense was just the same as these uh, washed, wezum, which I think I've already said is from Proto-Indo-European hueseti. So it only has a present tense. It has a sort of a gnomic meaning. I think the word for it is. But if you want to know exactly what these mean, you'll kind of just have to study Old English, because Old English is the only language I'm aware of that actually kept Beo, Bist, Bith, Beoth, 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 and Beon as separate from Eum, Eart, Ist, Sind, Sinon. German did not distinguish them. However, for the present tense, most of the forms are actually from this Proto-Germanic Beono. And this isn't a comprehensive list of all of the Germanic languages, so I didn't include like Old Saxon, Old Dutch. But I just wanted to get like a few languages from each uh, like subfamily of Germanic. So I have English and Old English for the, because obviously if you're watching this video you speak English and are probably interested in how the English to be got how it is, and then Old English to show the intermediary between Proto-Germanic and English. and then Germanic as another West Germanic language. And the only North Germanic languages I included were Icelandic and Old Norse. Because Icelandic is the most conservative North Germanic language, so that's what I wanted to go with for my example of a North Germanic language. So, anyways, like I was saying, Old High German, took a lot of its forms from this Beono, and it just means to be. In this case, it's not doesn't have like the gnomic meaning like it does in Old English. It's just the word is like suppletive, where you take some forms from one word and other forms from a different word. So it kept ist and sind from Proto-Germanic, isti and sindi, but for I am, it comes from ik biumi, ik bium, ik bim, and then thu biusi comes du bist, and then erest comes from, like I said, it's isti. So this, I think this might be a Z, and whatever. I think I forgot to double check the Proto-Germanic. Maybe it is nice. I don't know. Oh crap! What did I do? I just retyped it now, so that it should be fine. And then for we are, it's Wirbirum from we spoon, where it has this S that becomes a Z, and then I think I forgot to. I think I just used the Gothic forms for these, so I'm not actually sure I did that correctly. Hopefully I did. Either that or they are just the same as the Gothic forms. And then we have Irbirut, which comes from Esbionti. No, it comes from this is you plural, not they plural. Whoops. It comes from Esbionti, comes Irbirut. I'm not sure where this R comes from here. Whatever. And then Zint comes from Ziazint, Ziasint, or something like that. And that Sint is just from East Sindhi. It comes from Sindhi, which is now modern German does not have quite so many. In fact, it has two less, so half as many forms from this Beono, because it has wir sind as opposed to wir bium or whatever. And the reason it has wir sind is because in German, the first person plural is always the same as the third person plural. So wir sind, sie sind, just has the same form. So similar thing happened in Old English, where it lost, all the other, like it lost the first person plural and second person plural as distinct forms. But then it also, German also gained this new second person plural, which is actually the second person plural for for like the informal, so it has another second person plural for formal, but that's just a second person. Formal is like singular and plural, which is the same as the third person plural in this case. So sie sind, and if you wanted to say they have, it would be sie haben, but that would also be the same as you formal have, sie haben. So the only difference in spelling is that the S is capitalized for the second person pronoun. And but like I said, instead of having it come from Beirut, it comes from these optative forms by the looks of things. Where it's based on this, and different languages level things in different ways. So I'm pretty sure I said that Gothic leveled instead of taking isum and isuth, it took these forms from the optative, and it also took instead of saying seem, seeth, and seen, it also leveled from the singular optative to the plural optative. So siema and sieth and siena, as opposed to seem, seeth, and seen. I think that's about everything. I haven't talked about like each individual thing, but I guess the last thing I'll talk about is the fact that if you look at this chart I made and you just look at it horizontally, if two things have the same color, they're going to be very similar. So was, 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 var, was, was. So they're all, you can clearly see how these are related, especially if you know that this R comes from Z that was rhoticized. And then you have wast, wast, fast, farst, which looks like it was analogized from these forms. Vari, vaust, were, wart. All very similar. Was, wast. And you can see they're all the same as the first person. So if you're speaking Gothic or English, and you just say ik was, that's I was, and ich was, he was, and although Gothic is pro-trop, so you wouldn't usually include these ik and is unless you're saying, oh, I did this, oh, he was that, he was the one who, whatever, where you're putting emphasis that I or you or he or she, you're putting more emphasis. So if you speak Spanish, that should be pretty familiar. And I'll continue going through. Vesum, vesum, verum, orum, varum, van, verum, were, and then vesuth, vesuth, varuth, boruth, vaut, vat, and then these taken from, I should say these aren't too similar because to these ones because they're taken from here. So, but these are similar. Vesum, vesun, varu, foru, varun, van, waren, were. So all very, very similar in the past tense, and in the present tense they're, somewhat similar. Not these ones really. But you can see, and also like Proto-Indo-European is pretty similar with its Wesum, Weses, Weset, Wesum, Weset, Wesund, and Wesity to the Germanic forms, and this Esm, Esti, Esti, Smos, Ste, Senti are very similar to Imi, Izzy, Isti, Izum, Izud, and Cindy. And if you speak Latin, you might recognize these as sum, es, est, somos. I can't remember what these are. I think this is sunt. I can't remember at the moment what the second person plural is of to be in Latin. But it's when you look at Proto-Indo-European, the way that Latin and Germanic are connected, it's a lot clearer, since you can see, so Germanic's strategy was to get rid of the S, whereas Latin's strategy was to put an O in between the S and the M, and then the O became a U. So you can see how, if you look at it that way, then they're not actually that different. So we have Esm, Immi, Im, M, Er, and then these aren't similar because they're from that, and then Eum and M, all very similar, except for these ones, like I said. Esi, Izzy, Is, Est, Ert, Ert, Art, and then Esti, Isti, Ist, Es, Er, Ist, Is, and Is. Then the plural forms, so we are, Smos, Isum, and then this isn't similar because it's from the optative. Erum, Erum are from Isum, but then Sind, Sind in modern German is from the third person plural, so it's not similar. And then Sindun, also from the third person plural, so it's not similar. And then we are is from the singular forms. Then we have the second person plural, so ste, izud, erud, erud. And then like I said, there's no distinction in the plural. And then finally, senti, sindi, sind, eru, eru. These look like they're analogized from the singular. Sind, sind, sindun, and then are, like I said, different languages like sort of analogize it in different ways. And then you can see the optative too, which is like this is the same, just one verb in Proto-Indo-European, but you can see in the optative it has this line here. So in Proto-Germanic, in the singular, I mean just these first person, second person, third person singular all have this, so Y. And this isn't actually a sound change. The Y sound is just written with Y in Proto-Indo-European and J in Germanic languages. I mean, like in Proto-Germanic and a few other languages, like the romanization for Gothic in German also has a J. So Ixion becomes Ixio. Thusias becomes Thusias. Iscie becomes Iscie. We see Gothic analogizes them from the singular, so we get Siema, Sieth, and Siena, supposed to seem, seeth, and seen. But then she, say, see, or su, and then these are all the same because Old English lost the distinction between the different forms of the optative, except for singular and plural. So there's no distinction between I should be, you should be, he should be. Whereas German has kept them even, ich sei, sagte, dass ich sei schnell. He said that I should be fast. Du seist or du seist. Sei. You can see that German went under a similar change as English did, where a long I is, you can even hear it in the word I. Like the letter I, the name of the letter is I and not E, which is the name of the letter E, which in most languages is called something like E. But in English it's called E because the long E sound, which is how the letter used to be, the name of the letter used to be pronounced, became E. So E became E, and then E became, something like I, and then I. And a similar thing happened in German, where seen becomes sein, where it has this I sound. And, there are other, sound changes that English and German both went through. So, for example, Hus becomes house and house. So those are both very similar. And thu, in English you get thou, but in German it just stays du. So no dao. That's you can see that languages don't undergo the exact same shifts, but some of them are pretty similar. And I think that's all I have to talk about this video.